Matt, I tell you, we have a lot on our plate tonight with sports.
Oh my goodness! On Super Bowl weekend, but it's not just the NFL that's coming to an end. While the NFL closes its door, other doors are opening, and that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, the NBA and the MLB are definitely up there. So, anyways, we'll start with the NBA first. I mean, talk about the Lakers making a blockbuster trade. Um, as they got Luka Doncic for an injured Anthony Davis, and they also sent Max Christie to Dallas. So this is what I think the Lakers won the trade, but I think Dallas lost that trade.
Well, I can say at this point blank, the Lakers won that trade. Period. Like, as much as I respect Anthony Davis, he's a former NBA Finals MVP and everything. I've mentioned this before. The guy cannot stay healthy. And when he can't stay healthy, there's doubts. And, there was another trade that the Lakers made, which we'll get into in a little bit. But this is insane because it looked like Luka was going to be a Maverick for life. But ownership in Dallas, I guess, had something against him, and they sent him to LA, probably because they didn't want to pay him a massive contract. And LeBron and the Lakers just said, bring him over here. And they obliged.
Yeah, and they did, and I think that there was a lot of other moves that we got to get into, like De'Aaron Fox, John and Victor Wembanyama to the San Antonio Spurs, Zach LaVine going to Sacktown to play for the Sacramento Kings, and then the other big one, Jimmy Butler leaves Miami for a change of scenery to play with Steph and the Warriors.
Well, obviously, besides the Luka trade, the Jimmy Butler trade had to happen. I mean, Pat Riley and the Miami Heat were holding Jimmy Butler hostage. They were not letting him play on the court. He was perfectly healthy. He wanted out of Miami. He's in a good situation. And immediately after he got traded to the Golden State Warriors, he signed a 2-year, $120 million extension with Golden State. So Jimmy Butler's now on his fifth team, and I think that he's in a good home. He's working with Steph Curry, and I think that he'll be absolutely transitioning quick and immediately. I think he'll be happy to be in Golden State.
Oh, he definitely will be excited to play for the Warriors because I think that Jimmy Butler is probably going to be happy there. I know he's benched right now, but I feel like Jimmy Butler will grow up.
Yeah, no, listen, I don't know what happened in his relationship with the Miami Heat that soured after 2 years. Because remember, 2 years ago, this Miami Heat team, they were in the NBA Finals. And people thought that this team was going to be built for success because of Jimmy Butler and the whole playoff Jimmy thing. But now, you pair Jimmy Butler with Steph Curry in a postseason game, if they make it to the postseason, that's dangerous.
It is dangerous. You're definitely right about that. And I think the Warriors will jump out of the play-in spot to get back to being on top of the West, but I know that it's going to be hard and difficult.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, the best thing that Golden State can get to is probably the 6th seed because OKC is running away with the number 1 seed, butt naked in the Western Conference. Houston's good as the 2 seed, but I think they're vulnerable to whoever the 7 seed is, whether it be Minnesota, whether it be the Clippers, whoever comes out of the 7 seed. But I think the Golden State Warriors can bounce back, and like you said, I think they can make it into that top 6.
They definitely can. If not, then they can also play the Clippers in the 8th spot.
Yeah, and like I said, if you can't make the top 6, if you can make the 7-8 game, that's fine too, because you only need to win that game to get in.
Well, the Clippers also got Bogdan Bogdanovic. They really needed shooting, though.
Yeah, listen, the LA Clippers are a good team. I think that they were missing a little bit of spark in their offense. And I can tell you right now, I think that Bojan Bogdanovic has proven to be a lights out 3-point shooter, and I think that this could be probably the missing piece that the Clippers need.
You're right. This is probably the missing piece that the Clippers definitely need. I mean, this is a loaded West, but my 2K league, since I got Luka to the Lakers have been they're now the 2 seed in my 2K league in the West since the Luka deal.
I believe you said they're undefeated since then.
Oh yeah. Since they lost to the Mavericks back in January, the Lakers have been hot.
Wow.
So anyways, now Lakers are playing the Warriors. I would want to see Jimmy Butler versus Luka tonight, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But the Golden State Warriors are indeed going to get get Jimmy Butler, just not today. He's probably going to get acquainted with the roster first because that's usually what happens with these trade acquisitions. But again, I think that the West Coast is where you want to play basketball. You got the Golden State Warriors with Jimmy Butler. You got the Lakers with Luka Doncic. You got Bojan Bogdanovic and James Harden with the Clippers. I mean, California is like where you want to go.
And then you got Zach LaVine in Sacramento.
Yeah, Sacramento got Zach LaVine. See, here's the thing. Even though the Sacramento Kings did get Zach LaVine to the Sacramento Kings, they kind of hurt themselves by trading De'Aaron Fox away.
I mean, they did, but I think Zach LaVine will definitely make them better.
I mean, maybe, but they're going to need someone on Sacramento to step up as far as one of their point guards are concerned. Because De'Aaron Fox was one of their top point guards, and now he's no longer there.
You also know my 2K league with a healthy Luka Doncic. He's also an all-star again.
Yep.
So, anyways, now with that being said, now we'll talk about some baseball here. So, we know that Pete Alonso is back with the Mets. It's a 2-year deal, opt out after 1 year. I mean, I was like, were the Mets going to give him a 7 or 8 year contract?
Well, from what I understand, the Mets really had no choice but to sign Pete Alonso back, because I heard the market for Pete Alonso was not great. Not even the Los Angeles Angels wanted to sign him. So I guess the right thing for Alonso and even Scott Boras was to bring Alonso back to the Mets. And Steve Cohen was noble enough to give him a 2-year contract for $54 million, and Alonso took it because obviously the guy wants to play.
He definitely wants to play. You're right about that, because Pete Alonso really wanted to be a Met for life, and I know that this is the right fit for him.
Yeah, and like I said, no one was going to take him. I'm surprised the Angels didn't try to pursue him.
Anyways, now that being said, here now, we'll talk there. We'll also have to talk about some other moves here. Like the Angels just got Yohan Moncada, and I'm like, where has that guy been? He fell on the face of the earth.
Oh my God, that young man fell off the face of the earth is right. He had a cup of tea with the White Sox, then he just evaporated.
Oh yeah, he definitely evaporated then. And then it looks like Tommy Pham is going to Pittsburgh, and I'll tell you, this is probably a very, very good fit for him.
So Tommy Pham is going to the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that's still trying to build themselves up because of Paul Skeens. I like Pittsburgh. I think that they're a good fit for him. The problem with Pittsburgh is they're not anywhere near ready where they should be.
You're definitely right about that, and I think that the Pirates are definitely going to. The Pirates are definitely in a rebuild. They're not really a team that is just there yet.
No, they got a long way to go. I think they can get there, but they got to be a little bit more aggressive in free agency and at the deadline for sure.
Oh, absolutely! You're absolutely right about that. But I mean, but the Yankees. We also have to talk about Rob Manfred's comments today about the Dodgers. I want to pull that up.
Yes,
and
please.
You know what he said? He was talking about the Dodgers and how they were bad for baseball. And he said, I don't agree with that. The Dodgers are a really well-ran, successful organization, and everything that they do and have done is consistent with our rules. I definitely agree with what Rob Manfred said about the Dodgers. And he also said things like they're a well-ran organization, and then they have done is consistent with our rules when it comes to spending money and all that. I know that you might have something to say about that. Is it a not so fast moment here?
Yes, that's a not so fast moment. Obviously, I've mentioned the deferrals time and time again, has helped the Dodgers. The only thing I'm going to say is that no other team in Major League Baseball is doing what the Dodgers are doing, which is putting all of this deferred money in the back end and getting these free agents, which is why I'm kind of skeptical about some Rob Manfred's comments, because if everyone else had deferrals and they were able to do what the Dodgers are doing, then we'd have a little bit more of a balanced league. The Dodgers, if they don't win the World Series, this is going to be something that should absolutely, be a talking point for how other teams should approach free agency. Because with all this deferred money, the Dodgers were able to do whatever they want, and they got, I think, 70% of all the free agents.
I still think the Dodgers are the destination for free agents. They are not. They're the number one destination in baseball for free agents.
I mean, well, definitely for people from Japan. I've mentioned this before on a previous episode. If you're from Japan, you want to come to California because California is a 7-hour plane ride compared to New York City, where it's a 14-hour plane ride. So for people from Japan, and the Dodgers are getting a lot of people from Japan, California makes a lot of sense because it's more convenient for them.
Yeah, because Japan and California are kind of not far apart. I mean, talking about, it's still a long plane ride, but the Dodgers have had great ties with Japan and Korea too.
Yeah, and part of the reason is because of Ohtani. I think if they didn't sign Ohtani, then maybe they wouldn't be getting Yamamoto. Maybe they wouldn't get Roki Sasaki. Maybe they wouldn't get a lot of the high-profile Japanese baseball players and even the Koreans.
And Hae-Sung Kim, I'm so excited about him. I watched film on him, and I'm like, that dude doesn't really hit for power. That dude doesn't try hard. That guy can really hit the ball to all fields.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of a shocker that the Rays even got him. I was kind of surprised.
No, I was talking about the Dodgers got Hae-Sung Kim.
Yeah.
But Ha-Sung Kim is a Ray, but there's a difference.
Oh, okay.
And then Roki Sasaki, who's on a minor league deal with the Dodgers, I'm excited about him wearing blue because he's a guy that is going to throw meatballs, fastballs at 100 miles per hour, and he's got that splitter that is just so nasty.
Yeah, no, listen, I think that the Dodgers have outdone themselves. But once again, I know Rob Manfred is trying to defend the Dodgers with his comments, but it's kind of weird that the Dodgers are the only team in baseball that has these deferrals and no other team does. And the Dodgers are, getting some scrutiny from other teams because of that.
Well, let's talk about Alex Bregman. We got to call this right now.
Yeah, I don't know where he's going to go. I mean, that's the great mystery of free agency so far.
I have a feeling Alex Bregman is going to be I'm probably going to say either Detroit or Boston.
It's funny because I think Detroit makes the most sense. I think that Boston, they're trying to pursue Nolan Arenado via trade. They're trying to get a trade going with Nolan Arenado, and I think that might pan out depending on how Boston plays their cards, especially with the Cardinals. But I think that there's a possibility that we can see Bregman on the move. I don't see him staying with Houston, though.
Yeah, because they already got Isaac Paredes and they got Christian Walker. So I kind of think Houston should be fine without him.
Yeah, but maybe when we make our division predictions later on, in a few weeks or so, I don't think it's going to affect the Astros losing the division. I think they still win the AL West, but maybe it's a little bit more closer than last time.
It might be, but Nolan Arenado's and the Red Sox have had recent communication with Arenado and his camp. But I kind of think that I think Boston would be a great fit for Nolan Arenado.
And the thing with Nolan Arenado is that he's 28 years old. He's still very young. And the Red Sox haven't really attracted a lot of free agents. I know that when it comes to their division, the Yankees have gotten a big part of the stick as far as free agents than the Boston Red Sox have. But I still think the Red Sox can be competitive. If this team plays well, I think they could be a playoff team.
They can. But I think that the AL East is so tough for them. Like the Yankees and Orioles are still going to be very good.
Yeah, and but outside the Yankees and Orioles, you could still have like two playoff spots right there for wild cards, and I think Boston could snatch one.
Let's talk about Max Scherzer to the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't know if this is going to make the Blue Jays good because they got Santander to kind of help make Vladdy Jr. happy. So I forgot. I think the Blue Jays are a sleeper for Alex Bregman. They kind of need a third baseman in the bad possible way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Blue Jays, they lost on so many free agents. Max Scherzer, I don't really know is going to do anything for them. I mean, Max Scherzer got his World Series ring. He's had his success. I'm not too certain whether or not Alex Bregman would be a difference for Toronto. I think Toronto could be a good destination for Alex Bregman. But if you look at the Blue Jays right now, ownership is not really pleased Vlad Guerrero Jr. and they haven't pleased Bo Bichette either. So if the Blue Jays want to make a move and maybe chase a wild card spot, then I think you could try to get Alex Bregman and give him his money to make Vlad Guerrero and Bo Bichette happy so they can stay long term.
Well, there's other news to talk about here. Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter, Ipe Mizuhara, has been sentenced 57 months in prison and ordered to pay nearly $17 million
Wow.
in restitution to Shohei Ohtani.
Wow.
I mean, a year ago, Mizuhara stole money from Ohtani to do all this gambling stuff. And now Mizuhara is now in prison for life.
Well, not 5 years in prison for life, but it's a good amount of time. Let's just put it that way. Listen, I think that somebody should have told Ohtani, hey, there's money missing in your account. But even if Ohtani knew about it or didn't know about it, even if someone blew an assignment and should have let Ohtani know what was going on, it wasn't right for Ipe Mizuhara to do what he did. It wasn't.
It was still not right because I think that what he did was wrong, and I'm kind of glad the Dodgers moved on from him because I think that Will Ireton is probably the right translator for Mr. Ohtani here.
Yeah, and like I said before, it's theft. It's not like he went to prison because he violated something with Ohtani. He stole from him. That's theft. And theft is a very serious crime. And 5 years in prison, I don't know what the charges are in California prison or California Institute of Prison, but 5 years for theft is, I think, a perfect amount of time for him. But $17 million to pay off 5 years in prison, that's a lot. But Ipe Mizuhara is getting what he deserves.
He definitely is getting what he deserves. You're definitely right about that, and I think that now that Ohtani is probably better off without him, and I think that this is probably the best case scenario that happens for him.
Yeah, you get the monkey off your back, you get the guy who stole money from you to pay his dues. He serves time in prison. You don't associate with yourself with him at all anymore. I mean, it's a win-win for Ohtani, but again, justice was served.
The question we should debate here this baseball offseason is, do you think the Padres have lost the offseason? Because I don't think they did not make any major offseason moves at all because their payroll is in flux.
They you know what? That's actually a good topic of discussion because the Padres were going to be seen as the team that could potentially compete in free agency with the Dodgers. And you mentioned it before, the Padres didn't really make any major moves at the deadline or free agency this past offseason to really cement themselves as someone that could challenge the Dodgers. And you mentioned their payroll was bad. It is really bad. And think of it, you came so close to being the Dodgers in the the NLCS, or NLDS, excuse me. And the fact that you didn't really capitalize off coming so close to win the division, I feel like that's disheartening for Padres fans, but it also tells you that, the Dodgers are the superpower of Major League Baseball, and the Padres just can't compete with them.
They can't. I mean, that 1 year in 22 when they beat the Dodgers in the playoffs,
Yeah,
that proved to me that was a fluke.
it's looking like it.
Because they blew it in. They blew it in. I think the Padres blew it last year, but you know what? In a 5-game NLDS series, I was saying that this in the NLDS this past season, the Padres led 2-1, and then the Dodgers found a way to force a Game 5, and they were probably the better team, and this was probably the best team the Dodgers faced in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, the Dodgers knew they had a monkey on their back because think of it. The Padres were the team that beat them in the playoffs a couple years ago when the Dodgers won 111 games and people thought the Dodgers were unstoppable. Well, I guess the Dodgers returned the favor.
Do you think the Dodgers can break the Seattle Mariners record in wins? In regular season wins?
116. 116 is a lot of wins.
They probably won't do it just because they have other goals in mind.
I mean, listen, obviously the big goal is winning a World Series championship. But think of it. The New York Yankees wanted to dominate everybody in 1998. They won 114 games that year. This Dodger team has the chance to break the record. It can happen. But I think we got to see how the beginning of the season starts. If we're seeing a historic pace from the Dodgers after August, then maybe they might go for it. But again, it's like that's hard to do winning 116 games.
Well, for your Yankees, my question is, now that you have your outfield set, I think Cody Bellinger will be in center, Aaron Judge back in right field, because I feel like Aaron Judge was not suited well for center field. Is Jason Dominguez ready to be that breakout star now?
Well, he changed his number to 24, by the way. He changed his number to 24 because Alex Verdugo is gone. I think this is Dominguez's time. I think that the time is now. We've heard this guy for the last couple of years. He's shown flashes of what he could do. We haven't really seen him play defense because Verdugo and Dominguez split time in the outfield. I think we might get some kinks out of Dominguez in the first month or so as far as playing left field is concerned. But if you give him a little bit of time, he'll show why he was a star at the AAA, AA level. Because Dominguez's outfield skills are very solid, and people don't really remember that.
Yeah, they don't really remember a thing like that. But, I think that Jason Dominguez is going to be a guy that, I think is going to slug for, I would say a good start for his rookie year, probably 28. He'll be a 28 to 30 homer guy to start.
Yeah, I mean, Dominguez has got some power in his bat. I think that people don't recognize that. I know he split time because he had to go through some injury issues and he didn't really stay healthy the entire year. And Verdugo took a lot of the playing time from Dominguez. But now that Verdugo's gone, this is Dominguez's chance to shine. And I think he'll make the most of it.
He definitely will make the most of it because he might be a rookie of the year favorite.
Possibly. I think so. I mean, and you mentioned Aaron Judge for a second. Putting him in center field was not the way to go. Because I've seen Aaron Judge.
That's what costed the Yankees that Game 5 loss in the World Series.
Yeah, it was that drop at the outfield that cost the Yankees that game and ultimately cost them the World Series. Judge is naturally a right fielder. We've seen him make amazing plays in right field. And I think that that's exactly where you put him. Cody Bellinger, I'm happy to see what he does. And one thing that I mentioned about the Yankees, I'm still waiting for them to sign one more infielder because I don't know what they're going to do with Jazz Chisholm Jr. yet, and Gleyber Torres left.
Here's the thing. You should move Jazz Chisholm back to second. Put DJ LeMahieu at third. I feel like I think the Yankee players still like LeMahieu.
But DJ LeMahieu has run his course. I mean, he had a couple good years with the Yankees, but now he's kind of getting up there in age, and I'm not really sure if it's right to put him in the starting lineup again, especially because his bat was horrible last year. If they could sign one more infielder, I would be fine with it, and maybe DJ could come off the bench as a bench player. But if they can't sign anybody, I guess you put LeMahieu in third.
Well, anyways, now let's spent a lot of time talking about football. We'll save the Super Bowl stuff for last, but
Yep.
let's start by going back to the championship games. I mean, starting with the Eagles and Commanders, I felt like the Commanders finally got exposed to this Eagles team in the playoffs because the Eagles put up a ton of points. Washington put up a lot of fight. And you talk about Jaden Daniels having a successful rookie season, but it was just not his time after this loss for the Commanders. And then for the Philadelphia Eagles, here we go again.
Well, one area that the Commanders could absolutely get better in is their defense. I know that the first carry for Saquon Barkley went 60 yards, and that set the tone for how their defense was going to play. The Commander defense could not stop a nosebleed, even if they tried. They turned the ball over 5 times on offense, and the Eagles just took advantage of it. I mean, 55-23 is your final result. There really wasn't too much to say about this. I mean, the Eagles punched them in the mouth, and the Commanders didn't know how to respond. It's as simple as that.
And then we talk about the AFC Championship game where it was David and Goliath between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And you talk about that 4th and 10.
Yeah.
When Allen threw that ball, the Bills had possession. They had their last Hail Mary, but Josh Allen overthrew a receiver, and there goes the Bills' season.
Well, people forget the drive before that for the Buffalo Bills. There was a questionable call, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, where Josh Allen tried a quarterback sneak on 4th and short, and his back looked like he crossed the first down marker, but one ref ruled it a first down, one ref ruled it a turnover on downs, saying that he was just short. I would like to see what your opinion is, because it looked to me like a first down, but then again, I couldn't tell. It was like one of those too close to call things that where you couldn't make a decision.
My opinion on this is that the refs cheated again.
Possibly. I mean, how does one ref make one call and the other ref makes another call?
That's just that to me. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's kind of confusing to me. It's just like I don't understand why the refs just can't be consistent with the calls, and I think that it's very, very, disheartening to see the Bills lose this way off a bad call, and it's just the story of the season. And then Kansas City took full advantage of it. They kicked the field goal, and on that pass that you talked about that fell incomplete, Allen had pressure in his face, and also that was the first time this season that the Kansas City Chiefs put 30 points in a game this season.
Finally, after not doing it in the regular season, I mean they saved everything for them in the playoffs. But here we go again. We're going to talk about Chiefs Eagles in the Super Bowl in just a little bit, but there were just a lot of questionable calls by the officials.
Absolutely, it's one of those things where it's like,
if you see on social media how many times I've seen the referees be photoshopped in Kansas City Chiefs uniforms, that tells me the refs are just too biased with Kansas City.
Absolutely.
They're doing it for show, and it doesn't make sense to me. Those calls they make on Kansas City is controversial. It's not fair to the other team that they're playing.
No, it's not. It's not fair.
And that's why you would see opposing coaches that play the Chiefs get frustrated with those calls.
Oh, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Like, you need to have a good.
Here's the thing: in the past, when the Patriots had their run of Super Bowls, there are other fans that who did not like New England. They would blame the refs during the Brady era.
Yeah, I think the problem is that when it came to just the calls and everything, like, at least the Patriots had some sort of way to maneuver around the suspicion of a call. The Chiefs, it's like blatantly obvious that they screwed someone over.
They definitely did screw someone over because of that, and and all, and I kind of think that that happened here, but I changed my mind. We should talk about some NFL honor stuff. We have breaking news to get into here.
Yes.
For the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 25, Antonio Gates coming in as a San Diego Charger, very well deserved.
Absolutely.
I knew he was gonna go into Canton as a Charger because Antonio Gates really evolutionized the tight end position.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Gates is one of the better tight ends in the NFL has ever had, and I think that his position is very well deserved. He's been bragging about it for years, and I can't complain. He's one of the best Chargers to ever put a uniform on.
The next inductee is Jared Allen, a Minnesota Viking, a Carolina Panther. Jared Allen goes into Canton as a Viking.
I mean, listen, this was one of the scarier pass rushers that we've ever seen, and it's beautiful the fact that he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's earned his right to get in there, and I'm happy for him.
Sterling Sharp, he was long overdue. The best receiver. If you talk about Shannon getting in, Sterling got in, and he's going to go in as a Green Bay Packer.
Well, Sterling Sharp, he was a guy that unfortunately had his career shortened due to injury. But when he was on and when he was playing, he was phenomenal as a player. It's just a shame his career was short, but good for him.
And then Eric Allen, probably one of the best defensive backs in the history of the NFL.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, you can't get enough defensive backs. I mean, Eric Allen was one of the more underrated defensive backs of his time.
And then we talk about our next award we should talk about here. Let's go to Defensive Player of the Year. Was this not a surprise? Pat Surtain II wins Defensive Player of the Year. You know what? The Denver Broncos have, if you talk about best defensive players in years for the years that we've seen the Denver Broncos play, it was Von Miller for a long time. They finally found their next defensive gem in Pat Surtain from who. And as you know, I love Bama players. Pat Surtain is like one of my favorites coming out of that school.
Oh no, Pat Surtain was one of the best cover corners of the NFL this season. I mean, he limited the number one receiver for a lot of opposing offenses to under 100 yards. That was what got him in there. And the Broncos had a good turnaround season, but it all was because I know Bo Nix was the catalyst for their offense, but Pat Surtain was the catalyst for their defense.
Comeback Player of the Year. And it goes to our guy from the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow. I know you and I love Joe Burrow, Matt.
Hey, listen, the Bengals were up for a lot of awards this year, and I'm glad that Joe Burrow got one of them.
Yes. I mean, a year where he got hurt a year ago, and then now Joe Burrow he's Joe Cool, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and listen, Burrow led the NFL in every passing category, and Jamar Chase led the NFL in every receiving category. One of them had to get some recognition, and there we go. Joe Burrow got it.
Offensive Player of the Year had to go to Saquon Barkley from the Philadelphia Eagles, former New York Giants. Matt, what could you say about Saquon Barkley winning it?
Listen, this was a very bad day for the Giants in more ways than one. I want to get into another reason.
You must be disgusted.
Well, there's more to it. I'll explain the other reason why. But listen, I have no ill will towards Saquon Barkley. I want to make that perfectly clear. I have no ill will towards Saquon Barkley. I'm proud of him. He should have made history. I know Eric Dickerson didn't want him to break the record, but you know what? I don't care. Saquon Barkley proved it in the playoffs, and he proved it in the regular season that he's one of the best backs in football, and I'm ashamed that the Giants didn't see that in him.
They did not. It's probably their ownership just didn't see that in Saquon Barkley. But why is it also a bad day in New York Giant land? It's probably because Eli Manning got snubbed.
That's exactly it. Let me just make this perfectly clear. Eli Manning is the only person that can say that he beat Tom Brady twice on the biggest stage in them all. There's no other QB that started 210 games besides Brett Favre, and there was no other quarterback that was consistent for a long period of time. There was no other quarterback that was, as good as noble as Eli Manning. There was no other quarterback that was as critical to himself as Eli Manning, and there was no other quarterback that got beaten down as much as Eli Manning. And you know what he did? He took the criticism, he took the punishments, he took the hits, and he kept going. And he's a two-time Super Bowl champion. At one point, he won more championships than his brother. And I'm flabbergasted that the Pro Football Hall of Fame left him off this year, and he better go on next year because I'm very, very ashamed.
I get your frustration. To me, Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer for a
Thank
reason.
you.
Because he beat Tom Brady in the biggest stage twice. Even though he wasn't an elite quarterback in the regular season, Eli Manning was a leader of men for the New York Giants during his long career there. And I also felt like that when Eli Manning was a New York Giant, John Mara, Steve Tisch, everybody in the Giants organization loved Eli Manning.
Yeah, like the one thing that you know about Eli Manning is that he's going to get well respected because of the person that he is. And on top of that, it's the fact that he played in the biggest market in football. The New York market is a cruel, cruel, cruel market. And the fact that Eli dealt with the criticism, he dealt with all the media, and he was able to persevere and play through it and never got benched. He never complained. Like Ben McAdoo ruined his streak, but you know what? He persevered through Ben McAdoo because that's the kind of guy he is. He's a character that we haven't seen before. And I know him and Peyton have their own little podcast and their own little Manning cast, whatever it is. But you know what? Eli Manning has done more for this game as a leader than Peyton Manning has. And that's saying a lot because Peyton Manning is one of the greatest quarterbacks of my era. But I don't really care. Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame. The fact that he isn't is a joke.
It is. But moving on here, talk about Jared Verse from the Los Angeles Rams bringing home Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think they found their next Aaron Donald here.
Listen, Jared Verse came on the scene. He had a very good first impression in his rookie year as a pass rusher. You mentioned it. They might have their next Aaron Donald here. He was very dominant on the defensive front.
Talking about next year's Hall of Fame class, Eli Manning is definitely on there. Also, who missed the cut was Adam Vinatieri. I'm pretty confident that he will get in next year.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Adam Vinatieri did not make it. Based on what I saw here, next year's class should feature Eli Manning is on the eligibility list for next year's Hall of Fame class in 26. It also includes Jason Witten, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, LaShawn McCoy,
Oh my
Marquise
God.
Pouncey, Greg Olson, Alex Smith, and Des Bryant.
Oh my God, what a class. Also, I heard Luke Kuechly missed the cut as well.
That's a guy that had a great 8-year career for a non-quarterback.
And he was a linebacker. He was a dominant linebacker for the Panthers. The Pro Football Hall of Fame only had 4 people go in this year.
Yeah, I'm like, is there any senior members? Like, there were some members that I wanted to see get in, like Mike Holmgren, who led Green Bay to a Super Bowl championship, and he also was the winningest coach in Seattle Seahawks history.
And I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at it right now. Only 4 people got in the Hall of Fame this year. There's not one headliner that people can get behind. Okay,
Here's who
Antonio Gates.
I want in. I want Robert Kraft to be in there. He had a part in the Patriots dynasty.
Absolutely, he did. Listen, there were a lot of people who got snubbed from the Hall of Fame. I know Eli Manning's one. The fact that Adam Vinatieri didn't get in is also a joke. It really is.
Yeah, this Hall of Fame class is probably a joke, but I'm kind of thinking who's going to be the MVP of the NFL.
Well, the nominees are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Saquon Barkley, and I think one other person.
I'm kind of thinking it's probably going to be Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen had one of his best seasons in NFL history. And we have breaking news. It's Josh Allen that's the most valuable player in the NFL this year.
Well, that's not a surprise.
Because Josh Allen had a, an insanely good year.
Yeah, it was an insane. It was a really special year for him. And you know what? He didn't win the big game against Kansas City in the playoffs, but you know what? No one could take away the fact that he was the most dominant quarterback of the 2024 season. He got his moment.
I mean, you talk about Al. I mean, the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen are. I like where they're going, despite losing to Kansas City again. But I feel like that next football season we'll probably see the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are going to be very good next year. I have no doubt about that.
Like this should be like the Bills got to get over the hump. They have to because time's running out.
So, anyways, now let's talk about our head coaching reactions here. Talk about which hire we liked, but we know that Kellen Moore is most likely the head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Well, it's looking like it, especially because Mike McCarthy did say that he was stepping aside from coaching in 2025. And I think that Kellen Moore, he'll be in New Orleans anyway, so maybe he'll get another chance or two to talk to the Saints ownership. I think it's just a foregone conclusion before Kellen Moore takes the job.
Another breaking news story here is that for who the winner of this year's NFL head coach of the year, it goes to Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell.
I mean, listen, you made Sam Darnold an all-pro. That's all I need to say.
You know what? Kevin O'Connell's the right person to coach the Vikings. I think that his play calling, the way he constructs his offense, really fits the mold of what the Minnesota Vikings are doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like his offensive philosophy is second to none amongst many of the coaches in the NFL. And like I said, he made Sam Darnold look great this year. And that's the number one thing that I think the voters saw and why they gave it to him.
And a new award we should talk about, Assistant Coach of the Year, goes to Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson and head coach of the Chicago Bears. I mean, we talked about how great Ben Johnson was as an offensive play caller. And now that he's in Chicago, I feel like Ben Johnson is going to make Caleb Williams an even better quarterback. And the offense under Johnson is going to be so much better in the Windy City.
I mean, listen, Ben Johnson was one of the better offensive play callers this season as far as assistant coaches are concerned. He kept Dan Campbell in a swivel for sure. I mean, he made Dan Campbell look like a genius for the most part. But, I mean, listen, Ben Johnson was very creative with his offense. He had the right personnel to do it, and that was why the Lions were the best offense in football this year.
And now that he's in Chicago, I'm pretty confident that the Chicago Bears won't be this laughing stock of the NFL anymore.
No, they should improve with this. I mean, the previous two coaches with Matt Nagy and Matt Eberflus clearly did not work out for Justin Fields or for Caleb Williams, respectively. Like this is an organization that has been thirsty for points, thirsty for explosive plays on offense. I know defense is their main priority in Chicago, but at the same time, you gotta understand that you gotta have good offense as well.
You have to have a good offense. That's what the thing about the Chicago Bears is. But let's talk about some head coaching hires that we liked. First, we'll talk about, I know we talked about Mike Vrabel with the New England Patriots, but they just hired Todd Downing as their wide receivers coach. I mean, Todd Downing is not calling plays, but I think Todd Downing is probably a good position coach. But from a Patriots fan perspective, Matt, I am very optimistic about where we're going as a football team and from now and into the future. And although things didn't work out with Gerard Mayo, who I liked as a player, and I thought that he was going to be a good leader of men, but there was something that people saw in Foxborough that I didn't.
Hey, listen, I mean, the Patriots are pressing the reset button 1 year after they hired a head coach. But listen, Robert Kraft is not playing around this time. I think he wants to make sure that he gets every single hire right. And I think that he's taking it steady. He's not jumping into something that he doesn't want to do. I think he was pressured into hiring Jerron Mayo. And I think that you bring in Mike Vrabel and then allowing him to pick his own staff, that was what needed to be done. And I feel like the Patriots are on a good path.
They are, but they're still in a division that Buffalo is still the team to beat. The Miami Dolphins should improve next year.
Yes.
And if it weren't for Tua being hurt, the Dolphins would be a playoff team, which I would expect. But
right.
I think the Miami Dolphins, if I play Madden, they're just a team that is just unstoppable offensively in video game play.
Yeah. Oh man, but they gotta be good outside of video games, you know?
Yeah, I still think I'm really optimistic about the Miami Dolphins and Tua next year, and then New England with Vrabel. I mean, Drake May is going to benefit with Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, Josh McDaniels is a sure thing in New England. If he's not going to do well anywhere else, he'll definitely do well in New England as their OC. This is his third stint as the Patriots offensive coordinator, and honest to God, I think this is the best thing that could happen to him.
This is going to help Drake May out big time, and then the New York Jets hiring former defensive back Aaron Glenn. I mean, I liked his leadership in Detroit when he led that defense. Now that he's the head coach of the New York Jets, I'm pretty optimistic that Aaron Glenn is going to do everything in his power to make the New York Jets great. But unfortunately, New York is still stuck.
I mean, listen, the Jets have a lot of work to do in the draft and in free agency to make themselves taken seriously. I mean, we also don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, whether or not he'll retire or stay another year. But Aaron Glenn, I think, was a good pick as head coach. I think the roster is going to be better with him. I think that Sauce Gardner is going to benefit the most with Aaron Glenn as the new Jets head coach, especially for the defensive unit. With Robert Saleh as their head coach, they had the best defensive unit in football. And then when Jeff Ulbrich came in, they regressed. But now you bring in Aaron Glenn, who's a former Jet player and a guy who coached a really good defense. I think the Jets defense is going to be good, but I'm curious to see what happens with their offense moving forward.
Well, staying in the NFC East, I mean, people gave Dallas a D+ for hiring Brian Schottenheimer as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like that he probably is going to be a one-and-done candidate, but you know what? Maybe he might not be a one-and-done candidate. Maybe these head coaches hired this cycle may not be one-and-done candidates.
Well, here's what I think about the whole Brian Schottenheimer thing. And even the Matt Eberflus hiring, because Matt Eberflus was hired as the Cowboys defensive coordinator. Yeah, that's right. That's correct. So I think Jerry Jones hired two people who weren't going to stand up to him. I think the reason why Mike McCarthy did not get a contract extension in Dallas was because Mike McCarthy was a guy who was going to challenge Jerry Jones's authority. And Jerry Jones doesn't like that. So I think that's why they let him go. And I think that's why Jerry Jones brought in Brian Schottenheimer, a guy who has been in the organization for a little bit and a guy that's going to fall and play by Jerry Jones's rules. That's not necessarily a great quality, but I can understand Jerry Jones's logic.
Well, if you look at it here, I think that Brian Schottenheimer was more of a Jerry Jones decision to not interview candidates outside, because Jerry Jones is kind of like keeping things within the family.
Yeah, and that's what he likes to do. I mean, you gotta remember, this is also the same guy who fired Jimmy Johnson after 4 years after winning 2 Super Bowls. I mean, Jerry Jones is an interesting owner. I mean, I'm not a big fan of him, but he has a defiant way of doing things, and that's why people respect him in the media. But if you're a coach, you want to kiss his behind, because that's all you have to do.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of talent on their roster, but it's not I don't think it's that good, quite honestly.
It's not as good. It was very, very shocking, to say the least, that they hired him. And so my thing is with Jerry Jones, yes, you have two candidates. You have your defensive coordinator and your head coach. They're not going to challenge your logic. But does that necessarily mean it's a good hire?
Not exactly. Not exactly. But now we go to the uh our next head coaching hire that we should talk about is the Jacksonville Jaguars choosing Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. And you know what? His press conference, I was impressed when he said Duval. I mean, I think a younger head coach paired with Trevor Lawrence is going to make things a lot better for Trevor Lawrence.
So, yes, I appreciate him trying to show a little bit of enthusiasm, but it was a very mellow Duval. It was not. It was not the rah Duval like a lot of Jacksonville Jaguar fans wanted. And there are some people in the media who are not entirely thrilled with this press conference. However, I mean, young minds think alike. And I think that Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen could get along. I think fans are not thrilled with his press conference, but I think he'll prove you wrong.
You're right. I think he will prove everybody wrong. I think Jacksonville's going to be a lot better next year with Liam Cohen and I think Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. I think that's going to work out very well.
Uh huh.
And obviously, Jacksonville is probably not going to keep up with Houston still.
Yeah.
And because, Houston is good with DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud. Indianapolis should improve next year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like Jacksonville has a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm not expecting an immediate turnaround, but if they can make the playoffs as a 7 seed or even a 6 seed, I think they've done their job.
And then Tennessee. There's no use talking about the Titans because the Tennessee Titans are just they're just a garbage team that doesn't have a direction.
Nope.
So, and then we also talk about Pete Carroll coaching the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, we talked about that you were not sure about that hire, but you know what? I still think Pete Carroll still can be enthusiastic. He still has the energy. He still loves coaching men. That's why Mark Davis wanted Pete Carroll to coach the Las Vegas Raiders.
All right, so here's my little brief analysis on this. I like Pete Carroll as a head coach, as a leader, and he's an energizer bunny. He's got a lot of pep in his step, chewing the bubble gum on the sidelines, running around during a big play. I think he's got a lot of, of energy left to give. And I think he's got a lot to offer to the Raiders organization. But this was a big Raiders hire. They love to make the big splash hire. And I think when it comes to Pete Carroll, the challenge is you have a bad roster. Can you hold your energy for this? Because once you lose your energy, you're not going to get back.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely not. I mean, Pete Carroll might lose his energy, but you know what? He has his son that's going to work with him. Brennan Carroll's going to work with him. So I think that's a very good thing.
Well, when you're working with your son, that's always going to be a big uplift to your emotions.
So basically, I thought Darrell Bevel was going to be the OC, but Chip Kelly, man, I think he's going to make the Raiders fast.
I mean, listen, Chip Kelly has proven to be a great offensive-minded coordinator. As a head coach, he hasn't been too good if you look at his NFL credentials. But I think Chip Kelly is going to be a very solid OC. I think he'll make the play calling really good. I think the thing with the Raiders is they need to figure out their direction at quarterback.
They might get Marcus Mariota to serve as a backup quarterback for the Raiders.
That would be a bad idea.
Or start, because he knows Chip Kelly up and down.
Oh, yeah, that's right, from their days in Oregon.
And then Greg Olson will be back as the quarterbacks coach. I think that's a great hire for the Raiders.
Absolutely.
Because Greg Olson, I think, was a better offensive coordinator than the ones they've had before.
Yeah, you're right.
And then defensive coordinator, I think Pete Carroll might get Clint Hurt to reunite with him again.
It's possible. I mean, Clint Hurt is a name that not many people talk about. And I think that the Raiders could use someone of his expertise.
And then the Saints. It looks like it's going to be Kellen Moore, but I don't think anybody wants that job. So don't be shocked if he backs out of that job.
Well, you got to remember, the Eagles are going to be in New Orleans this weekend for the Super Bowl, and I think that ownership of the Saints might want to talk to Kellen Moore one or two more times before the Super Bowl just to see if they got him on board for the job. And honestly, I know the Saints are not an attractive job, but at the same time, you know, if they bring Darren Rizzi back, that's the only option they got. I mean, they got to start fresh somewhere. And I think
Darren Rizzi's now in Denver as the special teams coordinator with Sean Payton.
Wow. Yeah, so I think Kellen Moore is the only fit to pick the Saints have. I don't think they have much of a choice.
Which hire do you think was good for this coaching cycle? I like the Mike Vrabel hire the best.
I like the Ben Johnson hire the best. I think this was the most talented and sought-after candidate this cycle because a lot of the head coaching candidates for jobs were not that good, with the exception of Ben Johnson. And I think there was a serious promise in Chicago, getting the heroes welcome in the team's facility from fans. I think that's what they absolutely needed. And I think that there's a lot of potential and a bright future ahead for Chicago if Ben Johnson pans out.
Head coaches that could be on the hot seat heading into next season. My list is right now. One of them is Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, we're gonna have to see what he does with his own quarterback in Big Blue, but I have a feeling that now that Daniel Jones is gone, this should give a leeway for Brian Daboll to see what he can do with a rookie quarterback.
I mean, listen, this is Brian Daboll's absolute last chance.
I mean, I know Brian Daboll pretty well from when he was a New England Patriot, Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yep.
Brian Daboll, I think, is a great offensive-minded guy. But I know you and all Giant fans are not liking him right now.
No, he's really done us dirty the last 2 years.
Well, I mean, anyways, now we'll talk about the Super Bowl, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. So, no use talking about these Pro Bowl games.
No.
I mean, did not even bother watching any of it.
No.
Because all they did was do these tug of war, throwing the football at different numbers.
Dodgeball.
That's not really the Pro Bowl I know.
I miss the old Pro Bowls in Hawaii.
I don't know why the NFL took it away from Hawaii. They should bring it back to Hawaii, by the way.
Yeah, bring it back. Bring it back. The old way, not this way.
Yeah, bring the Pro Bowl back how it once was, back in Honolulu, where people can enjoy.
Yes.
But anyways, now with this Super Bowl, the Chiefs and the Eagles, this is the second episode of the Andy Reid Bowl.
And you know what? I think the difference between this Super Bowl and Super Bowl 57 is that the Eagles have Saquon Barkley this time. Not Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I feel like that before we make our picks, how are the Chiefs are going to stop Saquon Barkley? I think that they have the defensive line to do it because Chris Jones is really that anchor in the middle. And if he stops Saquon Barkley more than once in the line of scrimmage, the Chiefs are probably going to have a great day stopping this high-flying offense. Knowing for myself, I'm an offensive-minded guy in football, but talking about Chris Jones and how the defense can stop this run game, that's going to be the key for this Kansas City defense.
And I think it's also just limiting the big plays. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be the number one thing the Chiefs defense has to turn to. Because if you stop Saquon Barkley, you force Jalen Hurts to pass. And Jalen Hurts has not been spectacular this season. It's been mostly the Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown show. So if you limit Saquon, that's going to be the number one thing you have to do. Prevent the big run. You don't want Saquon Barkley running 60 yards for a touchdown on the first play of the game. So if
Oh,
I'm
of course not. I mean,
yeah,
Steve Spagnuolo is probably going to have a trick on his sleeve because Steve Spagnuolo is one of the he's the best defensive coordinator right now in the NFL, and he's gotten Super Bowl rings with the Giants and Chiefs.
he has. And I think his scheme for how he did
I
it.
know you know him pretty well from when he was your DC under Tom Coughlin.
Yep, 2007.
And
2007.
Steve Spagnuolo is I think right now one of the best assistant coaches in the NFL right now.
He is. He's up there.
And he's worked with Tom Coughlin, he's worked with Andy Reid. He was an average head coach.
Very average.
Because I didn't think he was that good of a head coach, but I think
No.
him being a defensive coordinator is just better for him.
Yeah, I agree.
So Steve Spagnuolo is up for a challenge to game plan for Saquon Barkley.
And I think when it comes to Saquon, like I said, you're going to have to do everything you can to stop him. Now, on the Chiefs' offensive side of things, Vic Fangio's got his hands full. He's got to contain Patrick Mahomes.
No, Vic Fangio's record against the Chiefs is a losing record since
Yes.
during his days as the Denver Broncos head coach.
Yes.
And we know how that was in Denver during the Vic Fangio era. It was south. It was ugly in
Bad.
the Mile
Pretty
High
bad.
City with Vic Fangio.
Uh-huh.
And Vic Fangio, when he took over the Eagles defensive when he became the Eagles defensive coordinator, I saw a big jump in numbers.
Absolutely.
Because Vic Fangio has cleaned up the mess that the Eagles had with Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. And I think that his defenses are aggressive. They blitz. They know how to get to the quarterback. And Vic Fangio brings an intense defense.
Now, one thing I'm going to say, I think when it comes to the Chiefs' offense, I think Travis Kelce is going to get double teamed. I think that the only way the Eagles are going to lose defensively is if Xavier Worthy beats them.
Xavier Worthy is going to be a key to the Super Bowl. And then I think that offensively, not only Saquon's got to be a factor, I think A.J. Brown and my guy Devontae Smith are also going to be big factors.
Possibly. I mean, listen, I think the skill position players, whoever has the best skill position players on that very day, on that very game, will win. I think Mahomes is going to outperform Jalen Hurts, but if Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Saquon Barkley can pick up the slack for Jalen, that's all the Eagles need.
The Eagles definitely need that, but I mean, you talk about the halftime show. I'm pretty excited to see some Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, that should be fun. That should be fun. Now, there's rumors speculating as to whether or not Taylor Swift is going to participate in that because one of Taylor Swift's songs features Kendrick Lamar. And also there's speculation that Travis Kelce might propose to Taylor Swift.
You know what? I could see that happening in this year's Super Bowl.
I could see it. A lot of people were saying it should have happened last year, but I feel like last year was too soon.
Yeah, I think it was too soon for that because they just started dating. But I feel like that the Taylor Swift factor has to be in play for this game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we are going to see her a lot be shown on the TV.
Oh, yeah.
And I know people won't want to see that.
Oh, boy.
Because, Taylor Swift is going to be in the center of attention on the TV along with Brittany Mahomes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And also Clark Hunt and the Hunt family.
Yes.
Especially his kids and all that because, you got to put Clark Hunt in the Hall of Fame because Clark Hunt, I think, has done a remarkable job getting this Chiefs team from bad to good.
I mean, listen, it took the Chiefs 50 years to win a Super Bowl, and it was only the second year Patrick Mahomes was the starter. And I think that Clark Hunt has established a winning culture, and I think Andy Reid, you might as well put him in the Hall of Fame once he retires.
He's not retiring yet. Let's not talk about that yet, because think about it. The AFC West in 25 will be Reed, Harbaugh, Carroll, and Peyton. That's going to be a stacked coaching list in
It
the
should. It
AFC
really
West.
is. Uh-huh.
But even with Pete Carroll in Vegas, that doesn't put them past the Chiefs.
No, it doesn't.
But who wins this game? For me, I'm going to pick Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they win on a Jake Elliott field goal. My pick for Super Bowl MVP has to be Jalen Hurts.
Okay. I want to see the three-peat so badly. The idea of Saquon Barkley winning a championship with the Eagles would absolutely kill me. So I'm going to say the Chiefs win. I'm going to say they win by 6 points. And I think your Super Bowl MVP is not Patrick Mahomes. I want to say it's Travis Kelce.
Why do you think it's Travis Kelce this time? I think if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, I think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Well, see, here's the thing. I feel like at some point you're going to mix it up with the MVPs. I know the quarterback usually gets the MVP trophy every year, but I feel like Travis Kelce is going to have the game of his life despite being double-teamed.
Travis Kelce just didn't have the best season this year. He didn't get off to a good start to start the season.
Absolutely not, but I feel like he's due to break out.
Well, another news to talk about is that Russell Wilson will now return to the Steelers in 25. I'm thinking there's people that are saying that Justin Fields is the better fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback right now.
See, Russell Wilson is past his prime. There were rumblings about whether Russell Wilson would go back to Vegas to reunite with Pete Carroll, but obviously that's not the case. I guess people like the way Russell Wilson played. I mean, he didn't play spectacular for most of the season, but he did well enough to manage the game. I think this Pittsburgh Steelers team is just riding off false hope. I think they need a complete reset because they don't go too far in the playoffs, and when they do go to the playoffs, they get trounced. I feel like this team needs a complete makeover. I don't know when they're going to come back to realize that.
Like, if you look at the AFC North, the Bengals are second place. They're a good second place team on paper with Joe Burrow. Now that they made changes to their defensive staff, they should improve in that area. Baltimore is a team to beat. Pittsburgh is a good third or fourth place team, but I think they're better. I think they're third because Mike Tomlin is still a very good coach.
I mean, no, listen, I'll give my Tomlin his roses every time we talk about him because that's just how good he is. Like, he has a good product prepared for every single Sunday. And you know what? You got to respect him for it. This team has a winning record. They haven't had a losing record since 2003. Like, this team is well run, well coached, and well organized. The problem is when it comes to the playoffs, they just evaporate.
Yeah, they did against the against the Ravens team that's really good. So if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, do you really think that this is going to be the greatest dynasty in NFL history, second to the Patriots?
Well, no one's ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row before. Believe it or not, the last team to three-peat was not a Super Bowl team. So the Lombardi Packers won the first 2 Super Bowls, but the year before the Super Bowl began, they won that NFL championship too. So that was technically the last three-peat. I mean, a three-peat has not been done in this era, and I think it will never be done again if the Chiefs accomplish this.
If they do, give Patrick Mahomes his roses if that happens, because I think they're going to come in there wanting to complete this. They've had 2 weeks off, and beating Buffalo was something that they checked off, and then they're coming in determined for a three-peat. And Nick Sirianni is also coaching for his legacy on the line too. I mean, Nick Sirianni to me is the most criticized coach in the NFL.
Well, remember earlier in the year, people wanted Nick Sirianni gone in Philadelphia.
But I feel like Philly fans really patient.
No, they're not. They're absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, they whatchamacall this? Philadelphia Eagle fans are just jerks for saying some bad stuff to to Nick Sirianni. Talk about last year when they collapsed. I'm like, was that a collapse that people talk about? No, they should have won back-to-back division titles last year.
They should have, but then things just fell apart, and Nick Sirianni took the fault of the criticism for it.
And I think the Philadelphia Eagles should be winning multiple NFC East crowns now.
Now, here's what I'm going to say though. If the Eagles don't win this Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni gets an extension. Yes or no?
Oh, absolutely. Because Nick Sirianni, I think, to me, is the right head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he gets criticized a lot, but I just think that Nick Sirianni has done a good enough job for me to think that he's the right coach there.
I mean, listen, he fits the culture. He does. I think that either one or two things are going to happen. We're going to see a three-peat and a marriage proposal, or we're going to see Philadelphia overcome the odds, and the polls in Philadelphia will have to be covered in grease.
How excited are you about, before we get to that question, I had that question about Brady in a minute, but why are you thinking that people are going to break streetlights if the Eagles win the Super Bowl?
Because that's what they do.
And do you think that's against the law that they do that?
It should be against the law, and apparently it's not in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah, that's what Eagle fans do. They like to break cars. They like to break street lights.
Break windows.
Break windows. Celebrate excessively.
Yeah.
They did that when they beat New England in the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. And I'm like, I was like back then, how come we would lose to a quarterback that was not elite caliber? Nick Foles, I think he was just good in the playoffs just that 1 year.
He had a heavenly night that night.
Nick Foles, I felt like our defense didn't even stop Nick Foles.
Nope. Nothing New England tried worked.
Yeah, that's why we got outplayed then against the Philadelphia Eagles. And Minnesota had that crowd in Minnesota was a Philadelphia crowd.
Now, also, one thing I also wanted to mention, but in regards to the Super Bowl this year, is that Tom Brady will be calling this game. Do you think it would irk Brady a little bit to see Mahomes win 3 in a row?
It might, but Tom Brady is learning as a broadcaster, but I feel like he's going to be good in the future.
I believe in him.
Because a lot of people are saying on social media they don't really like his commentating style.
I'd like to see how he commentates the Super Bowl.
Yeah, him and Kevin Burkhardt has kind of bail him out a few times, but
yeah, he's had to. Yeah.
But you know what? I think Tom Brady's going to be a good analyst. I think he's going to be fun to listen to.
I mean, he's got a lot of time to recover. He's got a big contract ahead of him.
And it doesn't surprise me that he's not bailing out of that contract.
I commend him for staying with it.
So, anyways, with that being said, here we got to talk about some college football stuff with Ryan Day getting an extension, 7 years through 2031. Ryan Day has just silenced everything.
I mean, listen. Much like Nick Sirianni, a lot of people wanted Ryan Day gone as well. And you know what? I think Ryan Day finally got the contract he wanted. He finally stepped out of Urban Meyer's shadow. And here he is today, a national champion. And he'll be making $87 million over the next 7 years.
I think Ryan Day is a good coach, but I think he's criticized a lot.
He is, because his record against Michigan is the reason why he's criticized.
Yeah, he's got to beat Michigan somehow, but Michigan just had a growing year. I think next year Michigan's going to be really good.
Yeah, I think Sharon Moore will help them bounce back.
Yeah, Sharon. I thought Sharon Moore was going to was going to help them out. But anyways, that's gonna do it here. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We can't wait to recap it for you next week.
That should be fun. Take care, everybody.